Age 0. You are born in a hospital that does not appear on any map, not because it doesn't exist, because in North Korea certain things are kept off maps the same way certain people are kept off records. The hospital is clean, well-staffed, and reserved for the families of senior military officers. The nurses do not make eye contact with your father. They don't do it out of rudeness. They do it because looking directly at a man of his rank without permission is a mistake people remember making. Your father is a 3-star general in the Korean People's Army. He has served the regime for 31 years. He has attended the funerals of 2 supreme leaders and stood at attention at the birth of a 3rd. He is not the most powerful man in the country, but he is close enough to power that the distance is invisible to everyone around him, including you. You are 3 days old and your existence has already been registered with the State Security Department. Not as a birth certificate, as a file. Age 3. Your first home is a compound in the Pyongyang residential district reserved for military elite. The apartment is large by North Korean standards, which means it would be considered small almost anywhere else on Earth. But you don't know that. You have never seen anywhere else on Earth. You have never seen a map that showed anywhere else on Earth in accurate proportion. What you have is a father who comes home in a uniform that makes other adults go quiet. A mother who sets the table in complete silence when he is late and says nothing when he arrives. A kitchen that is never empty, which in a country where kitchens are frequently empty means your family exists in a category of its own. There is a photograph of the supreme leader on the wall of every room. Not because your family put it there out of devotion, because not having it there is not an option that exists. You are 3 years old and you already know, without being told, that the photograph is not decoration. It is the room watching you back. Age 5. You begin school at a facility attached to the Pyongyang military district. Your classmates are the children of officers, party officials, and state administrators. Everyone in the room has a father with a title. The hierarchy among children mirrors the hierarchy among fathers so precisely that by the first week, everyone already knows who sits where. You sit near the front. Your teacher is a man in his 40s who speaks about the supreme leader the way other teachers in other countries speak about gravity. Not as a belief, as a fact of the physical world. The sun rises. Water flows downward. The supreme leader loves the Korean people with a devotion that has no parallel in human history. You absorb this the way children absorb everything, completely without question, because the architecture of your world has been built around it since before you could speak. The textbooks show maps. In every map, Korea is at the center. The surrounding countries are drawn smaller than they are. America is a distant gray mass at the edge of the page, labeled with words you are taught to associate with danger before you are taught to read fluently. You do not know the maps are wrong. You have nothing to compare them to. Age 7. Your father takes you to your first military parade, Kim Il-sung Square, the largest public space in Pyongyang, which is the only city in North Korea that looks like a city. The streets are swept, the buildings are painted. The crowd is not a crowd. It is a formation of civilians organized by district, by unit, by workplace. Each section assigned a position and a role in the choreography of loyalty. Your father does not smile, not because he is unhappy, because in public, emotion is a display that belongs to the state, not the individual. The crowd weeps when the image of the supreme leader passes. The weeping is real. The fear that produces it is also real. In North Korea, these two things are not contradictions. You are 7 years old and you feel something you cannot name yet. A pride that is also a pressure. A belonging that is also a warning. This is your world. This is your family's place in it. And your place in this world comes with a cost you are only beginning to understand. Age 10. Your father begins taking you to certain meetings, not the important ones. You stand outside rooms while men in uniforms speak in low voices about things you are not cleared to hear. But the act of being brought, of being seen standing in that hallway, of having men notice whose son you are and adjust their posture accordingly, this is itself a lesson. Your father never explains it. He doesn't need to. You understand the way children of powerful men always understand, through observation rather than instruction. The uniform means something. The name means something. And you carry both of those things into every room before you have done anything to earn them. At school, your teachers call on you more carefully than they call on others. Not because you are smarter, because being wrong in front of you carries a different kind of risk than being wrong in front of other children. You notice this. You file it away. You are 10 years old and you are already learning that power is not something you hold. It is something that surrounds you, invisible and total, reshaping the behavior of everyone in proximity. Age 13. You are given access to state television and approved radio. This is not unusual. What is unusual is that your father one evening says something that does not appear in any approved broadcast. He says it quietly in the kitchen when your mother has left the room. He says that the harvest numbers reported last month were not accurate. He says this the way a man might mention a change in the weather, as information, not as dissent. And then he says nothing else, and the subject is closed, and you understand without being told that this conversation did not happen. This is the first crack, not in your loyalty. Not yet. But in the seamless surface of the world as you had understood it, you had been taught that the state's information was complete and correct. Your father, a man who has given 31 years to that state, has just told you, with 5 words and a flat expression, that it is not. You do not know what to do with this. There is nowhere to put it. There is no one to ask. So you put it somewhere inside yourself where it cannot be examined, and you move forward, because in North Korea, moving forward is the only direction that doesn't get you killed. Age 15. Your father arranges for you to begin officer training. This is not a surprise. It was never a question of whether you would serve. The question was always only which branch, which rank, which trajectory. Sons of generals do not become farmers. Sons of generals do not disappear into the provinces. Sons of generals become officers, and officers become the next generation of the system that produced them. The training is physical in ways that leave marks. You wake before dawn. You run until the concept of stopping becomes genuinely unthinkable. You are taught to fire weapons with the same matter-of-fact instruction that other boys your age are being taught mathematics. You are taught that the enemies of the Korean people are real, present, and constantly working to destroy everything your family has served to protect. You believe this. You have been given no framework in which not to believe it. But at night, in the barracks, there are conversations that happen in the dark, in whispers, in the language of implication rather than statement. A boy whose father trades in the Jangmadang, the informal markets the state officially does not permit but practically cannot stop, mentions a Chinese radio signal he has heard. Another boy has seen a USB drive with foreign video on it pass through 3 sets of hands before it reached him, each handoff carrying enough risk to end a career or a life. Nobody says anything directly. Nobody in North Korea says anything directly. But you begin to understand that there is a version of the world that exists outside the one you have been given, and that some people, even in this country, know it. Age 17. You see it yourself. A USB drive, small enough to conceal in a closed fist, containing footage from South Korean television. You watch it for 11 minutes in a locked room with 2 other boys you trust with your life because you have no choice but to trust them. 11 minutes of a world you were told was impoverished, occupied, enslaved by American imperialism. The streets are clean, the stores are full. The people are wearing clothes that do not exist in any shop in Pyongyang. They are arguing on television, openly, loudly, with no apparent fear, about the government's decisions. There is a man on screen laughing at the president, not being arrested. Laughing. You watch this for 11 minutes and then the drive is taken away and hidden, and you go back to your barracks and you lie on your bunk and the ceiling does not change. And outside the window, North Korea is exactly as it was before. And inside your chest, something has shifted so completely that you cannot find the position it was in before. You do not tell anyone, not your father, not your mother, not the boys who watched it with you, because you have all silently agreed that what you saw cannot be discussed, only carried. You are 17 years old, and you now know 2 versions of the world, the one you live in and the one that exists, and you will spend the rest of your life in the space between them. Age 19. You are commissioned as a junior officer in the Korean People's Army. The ceremony is formal, precise, and completely without spontaneity. Your father pins the rank insignia to your uniform himself. His face does not change. This is not coldness. This is pride, expressed in the only language he has ever been permitted to use. You write the loyalty reports. Every officer writes them. They are a mirror held up to the men in your unit, but also a mirror held up to you. The political officer reads what you write and draws conclusions not only about your soldiers, but about you. Whether your assessments are sufficiently vigilant, whether you are finding the right number of concerns. Too many concerns and you appear paranoid. Too few and you appear insufficiently alert to ideological threats. You learn to calibrate. You learn to write reports that say what the system needs them to say while protecting, where possible, the men who serve under you. You learn that this is a skill, You learn that your father almost certainly has the same skill, refined over 3 decades. You never discuss this with him. You never will. Age 23. Your father is promoted to 4 stars. The ceremony takes place in a hall in Pyongyang, attended by 200 people, all of whom applaud for exactly as long as the most senior person in the room continues applauding. You watch your father receive the honor with the same still face he has worn at every ceremony you have ever attended. Afterward, in a private room with no one else present, he places his hand on your shoulder and says nothing for a long moment. Then he says, "Be careful who you trust," not as a general warning, as specific, targeted advice delivered in the voice of a man who has spent 35 years navigating something he is only now, in private, admitting is navigable rather than fixed. He is telling you, in the only way he can, that the system you serve is a system, that systems have mechanics, that men survive inside them not through devotion alone, but through understanding. He says nothing else. The hand leaves your shoulder. The door opens. The world resumes. You are 23 years old, and your father has just handed you the most important intelligence of your life in 6 words. You walk back into the hall and applaud with everyone else. Age 28. You are stationed near the Chinese border. This is considered a hardship posting. The infrastructure is older. The supply chains are thinner. The gap between the country that exists in official reports and the country that exists in physical reality is wider here than anywhere you have been posted before. You see things. Families and villages whose reported grain allocations do not match the physical condition of the people receiving them. Children whose ages do not match their size. A kind of quiet, permanent endurance on the faces of people who have been enduring for so long that endurance has become the only expression their faces know. You are a general's son. You have never gone hungry. You have never stood in a line for rations. You have lived your entire life inside the protected layer of the regime's hierarchy, where the system works because the system is designed to work for the people running it. Standing at the border, watching a version of your country that the maps do not show, you understand something your training never covered. That privilege in a system this total does not protect you from the system. It makes you part of it. And being part of it means that when it asks something of you, and it will always ask something of you, there is no distance to retreat to. Age 60. You write your report. You calibrate carefully. You protect where you can. You move forward because forward is the only direction. Outside, North Korea continues. The photographs watch from every wall. The parades are scheduled. The missiles are polished. The harvest numbers, somewhere in an office in Pyongyang, are being adjusted to match what the state needs them to say. And you know this. And you serve anyway. And every morning you put on the uniform, and every morning the uniform is heavier than it was the day before. And you have never told anyone that. And you never will. Because in this world, the things you carry alone are the only things that are truly yours.